This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our flower series. In this video, we'll be piping Buttercream Barberton daisies. It's broken down into steps so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to make 3 colors today for our Barberton daisies. The first one is going to be a nice light pink. We're using all American style or simple buttercream, but you could use another kind like Swiss meringue if you like. And we're using 3 liquid gel colors. Some neon bright pink, violet, and finally, just a touch of coal black. To start with, we're using small amounts of everything, so I just have a little of each of those 3 colors out on a lid there with a toothpick. And my first color is going to be just a really nice light pink, so just very small specks. Since we only have a little dab of buttercream in there. We want one of those nice kind of barely there, just registering kind of pinks that reminds you of that first color on one of those little paint sample swatches. So I don't really need to use a lot of food coloring, so just start with less and add more if you just want it to have a little more depth. I think that's beautiful. Our second color is going to be a medium pink. So we just want to do some pink on there, just nice bigger specks and more. So we have a nice medium tone. And we don't need a lot of this, as you can see. Just want it to be enough of a difference in hue that you can really tell the 2 colors apart. I think that's getting where I want it to be. I'm just going to add a tiny touch more. And a very little bit of that purple. Just to kind of help bring all of our colors together. I don't want it to feel too like bubblegummy, so just giving it a little bit of that purple in there will make it a nice kind of cool tone, and that's lovely. Our third color is going to be kind of a heathery purple, so we're going to use some of our purple, just a couple little specks, along with some of that black. So less black than purple is a great way to go. We don't need to make a very dark color. We just want something that'll give a little bit of depth to those centers and look like these beautiful blossoms. And you can see just adding a touch of that black to our violet gave us that nice kind of heather purple shade. It's going to be beautiful for our little centers. For this flower, we're going to use 3 bags. We're using 12-inch disposables, and you can see we have one fitted with a coupler. For this first bag, we've striped it with both our light and medium pink. You can see there's a nice little stripe of that medium pink down at the bottom there, and the light pink is loaded on top, and it lines itself up so that that stripe of that medium pink is lined up with the fat end of this petal tip, and we are using a 104. We'll also use a number 101. Our second bag is loaded up with the rest of our medium pink, and we're using it with a number 59 tip. This is a small curved petal tip. Our third bag is loaded with our purple, and we'll be using a number 1. So you want to use a small round tip. It's now time to review the techniques for our Barberton daisy, and we're going to start with our petals, and we're going to be making some narrow petals with both our 104 and our number 101. So to practice, I'm just going to use my 104. It's bigger, it'll be easier to see on the tray. We're going to be set up 45-degree angle back of the bag towards 3 o'clock. And what we're going to do is start fat end anchored in the center, towards the center of our nail. Skinny end is going to be pointing out, and we're just going to pull out and directly back. And that's going to give us a nice narrow petal shape with just a little bit of a curve on the end. Next, we're going to make some curved spikes, and for that we're going to use our number 59. So that's that bag of medium pink. And when we do these, we want to hold it straight up and down, just above the surface, squeeze so it builds up and connects, and then we want to pull up. Oh, it's misbehaving a little bit. So for some of them, it's just going to flop over towards the center with just a gentle flick of our wrist towards the middle. And for some, we'll pull out a little bit, and that's going to give us a little bit of variety on these petals. They'll kind of bend and sway in different directions. And finally, for our little stamens in the middle, we'll use a number 1 to create our centers. For this, we just want to be straight up and down. We want to hover just off the surface, squeeze until we get a nice little ball of frosting, and then pull up and away. And that's going to give us nice little short stamens. And when we clump them all together, it'll make a nice little center on our flower. Now, let's review how we're going to take the techniques we just went over and put them together to build our barberton daisy blossom. We're going to start out with our 104 tip. That's on our striped bag with the light pink. And we're going to pipe those narrow petals just in a ring, right on the surface on the outside edge of the nail. And don't worry about filling in the center. So we're not going to pull all the way from the center of the nail out. We're actually going to start a little away from the center and pipe a ring of them. So there's going to be a void in the middle. It can be a little scary to begin with, but don't worry, it'll get filled up as we go. So once you get a nice full ring of those petals, just do them right next to each other, all in a row until you get back to the beginning. We're going to go ahead and do a second row. And for that, we're just going to pull a little closer to the center when we start and pipe them right on top of the ones we did before. I like to start in the middle of 2. That makes them a little offset. It can fill in any little gaps or imperfections and cover them up. And you'll notice then that the center area of this flower will get filled in a little more because we're a little closer to it. For these, I like to do it just a little bit sparser and leave some gaps. That way it has just a little bit of an irregularity to it, but you'll end up with a nice stable base from that first row of petals. For the third row, we're going to switch to our 101 tip, and we're going to change up the angle of the bag a little bit. So we've got it at 45 degrees and 3 o'clock for all these. What we're going to do is just kind of rotate so that the skinny end of the opening actually points up kind of to noon. And we'll show you how to do this when we're on our nail, just because it's a little bit of an awkward position, but that's actually going to allow us to pipe on top of those 2 rows of petals. And we're going to do a third row with that 101, just really tiny narrow ones. And for these, I space them out even a little more. So sometimes I'll do maybe 2 or 3 next to each other, leave a little gap, do some more. And it's just going to give us some irregular, kind of sparse, really narrow, slightly smaller petals around there. Once we do that, we're going to change to our bag of purple. We're going to fill up the center area with some spikes. It's okay to leave a gap between the 2 areas you're piping in. And once we've got a nice little clump of stamens there in the middle, we're going to switch over to that bag that just has the medium pink, and it's using that 59. And we'll start by just doing little curved spikes where we flick towards the center for each one, kind of all around and encompassing that little center of stamens. So you'll start out with a lot of purple, and then some of it will get covered up. And then we can kind of pull up and then out to kind of join the 2 areas of the flower together. And that's going to give us a nice complete look. And because of the striping and the use of the medium pink here, a little bit of a fade effect on these blossoms, where they're a little darker towards the center, and then we'll just have that nice kind of heathery purple peeking out in the middle. And together, it's going to make us a beautiful alternate style of daisy with a nice punch of color to it. So we've talked about it. Now let's make one on our nail. I'm using a 3-inch flower nail. I've got just a little bit of parchment stuck to it with a tiny bit of extra buttercream. And just line yourself up. First off, 45 degrees, back into the bag at 3 o'clock. I want the fat end of my opening pointing towards the center of my nail and the skinny end pointing towards the outside edge. And then I'm just going to move it up a tiny bit. So think about half of the width of that opening up away, so we're kind of in the middle between the outside edge and the center, because we don't want to fill up the whole thing with this first row of petals, and just out and back really nice and quick. So just nice row of petals. Try to keep them nice and narrow, and you can see, since we've been squeezing just a little bit, you're just starting to get a hint of that medium pink towards the center, which is what we want. If you want it to be more prominent, you can go heavier with the stripe on the bag. And I try to get my petals all nice and kind of consistent. But if you want to, you can always pipe some of them just a little bit longer and some just a little shorter. Gives a little bit of a more natural feel. But you can see we end up with a nice void there in the middle. As you're coming back to the beginning, if you need to, in order to squeeze that last petal in, just rock the back end of the bag up a little bit. That'll keep you from knocking into the work you've done before. Now we're going to do our second row. We're going to be set up the same way, 45 degrees, 3 o'clock. We're going to pull our tip just a little closer to the center, that back fat end, and we're going to pipe on top of the row that we did before, but we're not going to go all the way to the edge. So we're just going to make them kind of a little shorter by moving the tip closer to the center. And I'll do a couple really close and then space one out. It's okay to leave some gaps, and you can see this starts to fill in the center a little bit. Now we're going to do our third row. I've switched to my 101. I've lined it up with my stripe as well, and we're going to hold it pretty much the same way, 3 o'clock, 45 degrees, but I'm just going to rock the skinny end of the opening up a little bit, and that's going to allow me to nest down in the center still and not knock into my petals. If I was holding it flatter, essentially the way I was before, I'd be kind of digging into them. So just think about rotating that tip kind of up so it's almost facing straight up. So it's kind of in the middle there. And we're going to just pipe some nice little narrow petals. You can see that allows me to get them right on top of the ones that I did before, because we're lined up at a nice angle. And anytime you need to, just clean your tip off. There we go. We've got our first 3 rows of petals on, so now we're going to do our stamens. I've grabbed that bag with that nice heather violet color. I'm going to start right in the middle. So you can see there's still quite a bit of a void, and there's a little bit of a depression in this area. So I'm going to start right in the middle, squeeze, and just pull up. And then I'm going to go all the way around that center one and just make a series of nice little short spikes. And that's going to help fill up what's left of the void in the middle and start to connect everything together. And I typically do 2 rows around it. It doesn't have to be exact. You just want it to be kind of circular in nature. So if you need to, just fill in the odd spot. So you can see it's starting to look like a nice little flower center there. Now we're going to use our bag of medium pink with that 59 tip. And I'm going to start right next to my centers. So just right on that outside edge, pull up and flick towards the middle. And this will cover up some of those spikes a little bit, which is fine. We just want them kind of peeking out from the middle when we end. And it's also going to help support the little curved spikes that we're making with this number 59 tip, because it gives something for that little delicate edge to kind of flop on top and be supported by. Now, I'm going to pull out a little bit and just kind of up at the ends. Just go all the way around, kind of mimic the angle of the petals you have going there. Just glide along them and just pull up right there at the end. Now you should have a little bit of kind of almost a gap between those outer spike petals and the inner ones that are really curved towards the center. So I'm just going to go in periodically and pull one that's kind of almost straight up. Just anywhere you can fit one in, just go in that gap and pull up, and that'll kind of help enclose everything and make it look like it's joined together. And anywhere I've got a little bit of an awkward spacing, if I look at it and I feel like it needs something else, I'm going to go in and pull another petal. So if you feel like it's unbalanced, needs a little more color, just a little more detail, just pull a random petal wherever you need to. And there we have a beautiful barberton daisy. That's all for this lesson on barberton daisies. If you liked this one and you want to check out some more, try some of our other daisy lessons. We've got a great classic style one in this flower series and also a 3D daisy cake. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.